All right, folks, welcome back to our Thursday Facebook with chat. Last week we chatted with a Michigan Live, MLive.com reporter to preview Penn State, Michigan. This week we're talking about the Buckeyes, of course, the number 2 Nittany Lions set to travel with head coach James Franklin and his Penn State team to take on number 6 Ohio State this weekend in the Horseshoe Ohio Stadium. Kickoff scheduled for 3:30 p.m. That'll be on Fox airing that contest. And I think what you're looking for when you really start to break down this contest, which we'll do with Cleveland.com's Doug Lesmerises in just a few minutes, is you start to figure out what's going to happen first. Is Penn State's offensive line going to crack? Is Ohio State's offensive line going to crack? It has had injuries of its own. So I think that's the first thing you look for. After that, you try and figure out exactly what it is that Penn State's offense is going to be able to do against a very good defense for the Buckeyes, and you're also going to look for what Penn State's very good defense is going to do facing its first real test against an Ohio State defense, rather, that has been very, very good so far this season. So we're going to be joined by Doug here momentarily to really break down this matchup and what it means for Penn State. Obviously, it comes into this matchup unbeaten. We'll need to stay unbeaten in all likelihood to have a shot at the college football playoff. So we'll see how things play out. We're working on getting Doug in here any moment now. And I think that Penn State's still about, what would you say, probably about a 7-point underdog, 6. It may have changed it may have changed recently, but it was about 6-56 for the total. The under looked very interesting. I think that there's not going to be many points put on the board here, but we'll have to wait and see how things pan out as we get ready to join this matchup between number 2 Penn State and number 6 Ohio State. Again, Fox is going to air that. We'll have pregame, I'm sure, probably starting at 2:30. We'll have pregame, Cleveland.com and PennLive.com from the field, both speaking with Doug and the gang from Ohio. We'll also have our annual ride-along video, and we're joined by Doug Lesmerises. Now, Doug, good afternoon. How go things in Columbus, Cleveland, or wherever you are this afternoon?
Is my head facing the
You're
right way?
You're good now. You're set perfectly.
I was spinning for a second. I'm good, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us. And again, you can find Doug's work, all the guys that cover Ohio State, Cleveland.com. Is it /OSU now? Is that what it is?
I always get the slash and the backslash confused.
I believe it's slash. Yes.
OSU. Yes.
Yeah, Doug had a great story today catching up with Penn State great Kajana Carter about a lot of the history of his recruitment and things like that. So be sure to check that out, Cleveland.com/OSU. You can also find that on social media as well. Doug, let's get into it. Penn State-Ohio State, 3:30 kickoff. What have you learned? What's the most interesting thing you've learned coming out of the Ohio State camp, whether it's from Urban Meyer, whether it's from a player? Anything of note jump out at you so far this week as you've talked to players, watched practice, so on and so forth ahead of this matchup?
Well, we don't get to watch practice.
Okay.
We thought Urban was pretty loose and confident on Wednesday. That's the last time we get to talk. We talked to him on Mondays. We talked to him Wednesday after practice. So after a couple days of getting after it, he seemed to be in a good mood, which is just us trying to read him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But he seemed to be more relaxed. He talked longer than he did Oklahoma week when they lost to the. But one thing that I thought jumped out to me was there's been a lot of talk about the pressure that Penn State likes to bring. And I asked Urban about Ohio State's offense and its ability to handle that pressure. And he said J.T. Barrett at times in his career has done that very well, and at times has not done it very well. So I think they're in a spot to handle it, but they realize that this Penn State defense is going to get after them. They've talked about that a lot, and there's no guarantee that the Buckeyes can deal with it.
Yeah, it's pretty much been the same thing coming out of State College and Happy Valley for anyone that's joined us from the Ohio State side of things. When you look at what Penn State's been able to do so far this season, they played their best game of the year against Michigan. There was no question about it, Doug. They found a way to protect Trace McSorley. They allow him to stand back there long enough to throw the deep balls, and now they're going to have to do it again against the Ohio State team that everyone thought Michigan was maybe the best defense in the country. They sure didn't look like it last week at Beaver Stadium. Ohio State on the road, a different test, though, and I think you've heard a lot of respect this week from the Penn State camp for Nick Bosa, for what Larry Johnson has instilled in that defensive line. So we'll see. It's an interesting matchup that might just come down to the offensive lines more than anything else. Moving into boxes to check, I guess you could say. I'm curious to hear one thing you think has to go right for Ohio State to win, and what's one thing you think could sink it, rather, going into this matchup?
Yeah, they have to throw it. The big debate for Ohio State fans since the Oklahoma loss, we've seen the progress of the passing game, and people want to know, was it legit or not?
Okay.
Was it a product playing lousy teams with no pass defense, or was it the play callers and JT Barrett and the receivers actually figuring something out in a different way? I think it's real, but they have to be able to throw it. If they're one-dimensional, they're dead. If they can't throw it in the middle of the field, if they can't at least threaten Penn State a little bit down the field, they're not going to win. So I believe they have significantly changed as a pass offense in the last 5 games, but they have to show it against Penn State. And even Urban Meyer has said that the whole time. You know, we realize, he says, that we haven't been playing the best teams and the best defenses, so we have to do it when it matters. The thing that could bite them is their own pass defense. They lost 3 guys in the secondary to the first round of the draft last year. They got burned in the opener against Indiana. They got burned by Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma. And again, they haven't faced a good quarterback since then. So a lot of Ohio State's biggest problems are they seem like they're playing well, but was it a facade built on lousy opposition, or was it real? I think it's real. But even if it is real, I think that pass defense could be an issue. And if I was Ohio State, as good as Barkley is, I'm even more worried about McSorley getting the ball down the field, because those big plays are what will kill them.
Yeah, no question about it, Doug. I think it's interesting. Both fan bases, they have sort of factions within them that maybe Ohio State is for real. Maybe the schedule led them to this point. Penn State fans a little bit less in that boat because of what happened against Michigan, obviously. But the Nittany Lions have yet to face an offense that's better than number 74 in the country. They obviously face this group that's top 5 based. I think that's the biggest concern right now is, can Penn State's defense again get pressure, again make a quarterback uncomfortable? Last year we saw they could make JT Barrett uncomfortable at Beaver Stadium. Can they do it in the Horseshoe? They've had notable issues there. It's a different team, different program. I get that, but it's been a house of horror at times. So I think overcoming that environment and making sure he can't get out and run is going to be really the key for Penn State, almost as much as anything else when you talk about the offensive line. If they're going to win this game, I think they have to check those 2 boxes. If not, things probably go south. And I think the other thing that we've seen, they've been good with the turnovers, both not giving them up and gaining them. And something that can catch you on a big game on the road, as everyone knows, is you throw the ball away a couple of times, you're not as proactive defensively with the interceptions and the fumbles, and suddenly a lot of those hidden yards, hidden points you've gained through 7 victories are nowhere to be found. So let's move into the last part of our segment here. We're talking with Doug Lesmerises, Cleveland.com. He covers a whole bunch of things, the Browns, the Indians. I'm sure you've covered it all so far this year, Doug. But I want to get your prediction for this one. Where do you see things ending up? Who is leaving the Ohio Stadium field victorious on Saturday, and how are things going to play out?
So I'll preface this, and I've been prefacing everything I've been saying at Cleveland.com for the last week with, I think Penn State's really good. I think these are 2 of the 4 best teams in the country. I think it's possible the 4 best teams in the country are 2 in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia, 2 in the Big Ten, these 2 teams. I thought Penn State was better than Ohio State last year. I thought Penn State had a better playoff case than Ohio State last year. I think Ohio State's better right now. I think Ohio State wins. I think Ohio State at its best, which is what they've been since the Oklahoma game. If that is real, they win. I think if both teams play well, Ohio State wins. If both teams play average, Ohio State wins. I think they have greater depth of talent across the board. Barkley is Barkley. I picked Barkley to win the Heisman before the year. I think he's going to win it. Ever since he came to Columbus and sliced up Ohio State in 2015, I've been a Barkley fan. I like Trace McSorley. I like a lot about Penn State. I just really believe in this Ohio State turnaround. So my pick is 34-21 Ohio State.
All right, I have it Ohio State 27, Penn State 20, for many of the reasons you speak of. And I think it's one of those games you go into where you make a prediction, but would anyone be surprised if this game flipped the other direction for one way or the other? I don't think so. But going into it, I agree with everything you said. And also, it's hard for me to pick Penn State in Ohio Stadium at the Horseshoe until I see them win there. There's just been too many issues on the road there for Penn State over the years, combined with all the things you mentioned. So until we see it playing out, Doug Lesmerises, and I don't know, it might be Doug, it might be somebody else, will join our lovable columnist David Jones at Ohio Stadium sometime on Saturday. Lovable, right?
I'm not chance to fight with Jones on Facebook Live.
Well, somebody from Cleveland.com will join Dave, so we'll keep you updated on the details for that. Until next time, this is Greg Pickel. That's Doug Lesmerises, and we are going to get ready for Ohio State, Penn State this weekend at Ohio Stadium. Thanks for tuning in.
See you.